When I received my invitation to participate in today's event, I was intrigued by the theme, Revelation to Revolution. And that got me thinking about what those words really mean and what they imply in terms of transforming thought into innovation, imagination into creation, good ideas and good intentions into productive social activism, advocacy, and community building. And so, as is my way, I began planning my talk relative to defining these core terms. First, revelation. A revelation is an experience that enables us to see, hear, and understand the world in which we live in new ways. Second, revolution. This is a word that refers to turning things around, and that by extension implies turning the status quo around, or even upside down, arriving at a new and hopefully better reality in the process. Revolution compels us to act on that which our revelations reveal, ideally moving us forward toward greater humanity, compassion, insight, social justice, and kindness. In the words of John Lennon, and please sing along with me here, you say you want a revolution, well, you know, we all want to change the world. Okay, and the truth is, should have gotten the Acavels to do that. The truth is, we all can change the world, each in our way. But that doesn't mean that we have to all overthrow governments, redefine the social order from the ground up, find the cure for some incurable disease, or figure out how to achieve world peace. As another great philosopher of our age, Fred Rogers, aka Mr. Rogers, once wrote, our performance does not have to be measured against anyone else's, just against our own abilities to cope. Your revolution, your cause, doesn't have to be grand or magnanimous to be good or meaningful, nor does it have to be flawlessly executed to be worthwhile. Follow your own mistaken path, and it will probably take you to somewhere you're meant to be. Now, a story about revelations and revolutions in my own life, and how they have brought me to where I am in my current work on music and autism. In 2003, I went to a dinner party. A new colleague of mine, an ethnomusicologist named Ben Cohen, was there as well. There were lots of instruments around, and after dinner, Ben and I pulled out some drums and started to improvise together. Things really clicked. We navigated our way through a labyrinth of different rhythmic grooves, and it felt great. My eyes were closed when I suddenly was startled to consciousness by a light tapping on my knee. I opened my eyes to see a 3-year-old boy, a relative of mine, who I'll call Mark, whose family was at the party as well, sitting beside me on the floor, looking up at me. Mark had recently been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, an autism spectrum condition, and I prefer condition to disorder. His habit was generally to shy away from any social situations involving people he didn't know well. The party was no exception. Up to this point, he had chosen to confine himself to a bedroom at the back of the house, and quite frankly, none of us expected to see him until all the guests had left. But there he was, sitting next to me, looking up and then gesturing toward a pair of unused bongo drums, as if seeking permission to join us. I nodded encouragingly as Ben and I continued playing. Mark started to play too, immediately shifting the groove in a new and unexpected direction. Ben and I followed his lead, exploring the new rhythmic possibilities he was presenting us with, using our experienced improviser's ears to modulate in directions that established shared communal ground. Mark changed it up again, and we followed again, and then he started to sing, powerfully, beautifully, creatively. We went there too. This was a blast. This little kid was taking charge of the jam, taking us into an entirely new territory on this exciting and novel musical adventure. Then there was a scream, and the spell was broken. It was 8 o'clock, and Ben's baby daughter, Nasim, was done for the night. The music stopped, a diaper was changed, everything was bundled up, Ben, Nasim, and family headed out the door, and the party came quickly to an end. A few minutes later, Mark came into the room where my wife Megan and I were hanging out and started talking to us. Usually he carried himself with a rather tight body posture, shoulders hunched up, fists clenched, frame rigid, and usually when he talked, his speech was stilted, hesitant, apprehensive, devoid of much tone or cadence, let alone accompanying physical gesture. But now he seemed like an entirely different kid. His body was loose and relaxed. He spoke fluidly and with aid of flowing hand gestures. I can't remember a word he said, unfortunately, but what I do remember is being blown away by how he seemed to have been completely transformed. All of his tension and apprehensiveness had melted away, and there was a sense of comfort and ease that I had rarely, if ever, witnessed in him before. And as all this unfolded in front of me, I couldn't help but think that this was the real Mark, the self within his self that too often felt inhibited, too scared to come out. Somehow this spontaneous music play session had brought this part of him to light. It was very cool to see that, and in a sense, be a part of it. So in the aftermath of all this, I experienced a revelation, namely, that the social difficulties and challenges faced by Mark, and, as I would soon learn, by a great many other children, likewise diagnosed with autism spectrum conditions as well, have as much or more to do with these children having been systematically disenabled by others as with anything inherent to their being disabled themselves. This revelation ultimately inspired a music-based project, arguably a revolutionary one, that was directed toward facilitating the enablement of children with autism to reveal and celebrate their own creative, social, playful, and musical selves on their own terms, while at the same time fostering new perceptions of and attitudes about autism and the people who have it on the part of society at large. Using the 2003 dinner party jam session as a model, a special facility called the EWOMP, or Exploratory World Music Playground, was created. Here, groups of children with autism, their co-participating parents, and professional musicians and ethnomusicologists associated with the project joined forces to make music together, music that was always emergent, free of any external demands or expectations, improvisatory and child-directed. The participating children were the cultural insiders of the EWOMP's musicultural world, and it was the job of the adult players to meet these kids on their terms, to facilitate the kind of music making or non-music making that they wanted to create and through which they wanted to define themselves and their relationships with others. The program was launched in 2005 as the Music Play Project, continuing in that guise until 2009. Subsequent to that, and with the aid of grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Florida Department of State's Division of Cultural Affairs, and additional state, local, and corporate sponsors, it has evolved into the ARTISM project, with ARTISM standing for Autism, Responding Together in Sound and Movement. The ARTISM Ensemble is a music performance collective in which children on the autism spectrum, their parents, and professional musicians of diverse musicultural lineage make music, make culture, and make change together. ARTISM models a world in which the participating children, both individually and in collaboration with one another and their adult counterparts, define what the normative is, what is acceptable, inspiring, fun, and meaningful. They are the composers, the ensemble directors, the creative force that drives and sustains the ensemble and most cogently realizes its mission of providing a new kind of autism awareness. Through their example, we see, hear, and perceive autism in terms of ability rather than disability, and we see, hear, and perceive children labeled autistic, not in terms of their autism, but rather in terms of their individuality, creativity, and social and musical agency. The following video clip is an excerpt from a 2011 ARTISM Ensemble concert at Florida State University. The composer of the work is a boy named Coffee Bean, that's his stage name, who you will see playing a set of drums in the center of the screen and directing the ensemble. The piece is called Coffee Bean's Thunder Beat, named for the Remo Thunder Tube instruments that are featured. Before the performance begins, you'll hear a recording of Coffee Bean describing his composition and then talking about how sometimes he gets crazy like a chicken when he gets excited.
Coffee Bean, and I named the last piece Coffee Bean's Thunder Beat. I named it Thunder Beat because of our thunder instruments. They sound like this. But one thing's about me, I get crazy like a chicken. I do that for fun. And that's it.
In creating a microcosm of a world in which ability rather than disability is the focus of attention, in which children with autism define what's right and appropriate rather than being trained to do what's right and appropriate according to the standards and expectations of others, and in which these children are met on their own terms rather than being expected to meet other people on theirs. ARTISM is a project imbued with revolutionary qualities. We are making change. We are challenging entrenched assumptions about what autism is and what people who have it are like. And we are perhaps even reframing some conventional ideas about what music itself is and what makes music meaningful in the process. Change is good, and change is needed. May each of you be inspired by your own revelations to foster your own revolutions, as grand or as small as they may be. Thank you.